Hi, I'm Rick.
Hi, I'm Oscar. Rick, you dove into Blazor.
Yes, I did. Because Blazor is, well, it's the new framework, right? It's the new way of doing things on the web if we need
It's
to.
new cool stuff, apparently.
It's the new cool stuff. So I prepared some slides and then a demo project. So let's dive right into Blazor Server, because today we're going to talk about Blazor Server. There's going to be a separate beta talk on Blazor front end or client, but let's first.
So there are two Blazor flavors.
Yes. So let's start with what Blazor actually is, and I'll dive into the specific versions later. So Blazor is a free open source web framework that enables developers to create web apps using C# and HTML. So long story short, instead of having to write all kinds of front-end stuff in languages like JavaScript or TypeScript, you can now leverage the knowledge you already have in C#, bring that to the web and create your application there without the need for a scripting language like JavaScript. So it currently has more than 60,000 active open source contributors, the Blazor framework, with over 3,700 open source company contributors. So it's a really active environment over there. And if you look at the Blazor editions that we have Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly.
Okay.
And of course, Server is the one we're going to talk about today. And that actually works in a way where you render stuff on the server side and then you push changes to the client. I'll dive into it a little bit better later. But the cool thing, for instance, about Blazor WebAssembly is you send your C# code out to the client and it runs over there.
Yeah, that was the first one everyone was talking about, right?
Yes.
It's C# in the browser. That was new.
Yeah, and the reason is it uses WebAssembly, which is an open source.
It's in all the major browsers.
Yep, true. Even in mobile ones. And what happens is they took the mono runtime and they compile your application and that runs against WebAssembly. So it runs in the same sandbox as, for instance, JavaScript, but then it's C# code. But you could also have Java or Python or whatever language go in there.
Okay.
So that's cool.
That's not released yet. It's not part of the .NET Core 3.0 patch.
True. With .NET Core 3, it is in preview. The Blazor Server thing is available. You can use it right now. But next to these ones, do you think that there's more Blazor stuff potentially coming up?
No, this is the two flavors I heard of. It's the same model, but
yeah. Well, looking at the rest, there are 3 extra versions coming up. So the first one is Blazor PWA, or Progressive Web App, which is targeting progressive web apps. That name gives it away a bit. Then you have Blazor Hybrid, which will be a hybrid form between native stuff and doing stuff in the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And then long way ahead of us is Blazor Native.
Yeah.
And what they actually said is, okay, so we have Blazor right now, which renders, for instance, HTML if we do WebAssembly. But we could just as easily switch out the renderer and make it native to the client where it actually runs. So if your Blazor application runs on iOS, you render an iOS control.
You need a framework on that side too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at timeframes, then PWA and Hybrid, they expect a preview somewhere in the .NET 5 timeframe.
Yeah.
Well, as we know, .NET 5 is targeted for November 2020. So expect a preview of those two somewhere around that time. The Blazor Native thing, there's no roadmap yet, but they are actively investigating if and how they can manage to do this. Yeah. Which I think would be awesome. Please beware, of course, this is all experimental. So that's the nice stuff to dive into.
But you're talking about Blazor Server, which isn't experimental.
True. So after
let's show that one.
Awesome, after this awesome animation, let's dive into Blazor Server. So actually, they used to be called Blazor Components. And what is Blazor Server right now is actually the rebranding of Blazor Components. So you host your Blazor components on the server. UI events from, for instance, your browser are sent to the server. There, the events are handled. The stuff is sent back to the browser, and then the browser gets only the changes of what's in the view, and it updates the changed stuff.
So if I understand it correctly, your code on the front end is pretty done.
Yep.
The only thing it has is a communication channel to your backend. Your code is actually running on the backend, on the server, and it's communicating to send events and data from your DOM.
True.
The deltas, actually.
Yeah, it sends deltas, and the cool thing is, it automatically, you don't do anything for that, it automatically sets up a signal R channel to do the communication.
Okay,
So that's pretty
start
awesome.
a project, start clicking around, and not even think about the model.
The cool thing is...
Is this for the web forms people?
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's
You don't know.
That's a difficult question. I think this is for everybody
Moving
who would
forward.
like to do web application development with their current C# knowledge.
Yeah, but it sounds like another, back to the old days, rapid application development model.
Yeah, but it's not back to the old days because
It's not dragging, dropping, clicking.
No.
Okay.
I'll show you. I'll show you in a bit. So Blazor Server apps run on .NET Core on the server. They enjoy all benefits, including great performance. But you can also use the full ecosystem of everything .NET Standard or .NET Core that you have already.
It's running on the back end, so
it runs on the
everything
server,
works
so
there.
you can do whatever you would like to do there. So one of the important things that people tend to ask is, what's this going to do performance-wise?
Well, if you have communication pipes running and you're hosting all the client logic actually on the servers,
yeah, you would think that that won't scale.
sounds heavy.
Well, look at the slide right now. They have a D1 virtual machine, which is actually one virtual CPU and 3.5 gigs of memory. They had 5,000 plus concurrent users with the web application with minimal to no delay. So that actually worked. As soon as they scaled up the machine to D3, they had more than 20,000 concurrent users. And the actual bottleneck for even more load was available memory.
Yeah, because
So
it's
not
using all that
processing.
session state probably somewhere.
Yeah, it's gotta. So.
Yeah, okay.
So let's dive into a demo. I'm going to switch to Visual Studio. If you look at this application that I have available right now, this is the default Blazor application you get if you create one in Visual Studio. And there's a couple of things that stand out. So for one, we still have a root, which actually holds some CSS that you need to have your application look a certain way.
Static stuff.
Yeah, the static stuff is still in there. And then in this current solution, we have 3 different folders that actually hold data, pages, and shared. Well, to start with the interesting stuff, I'll take this one and I'll make it just a bit bigger. This looks a lot like Razor that we already know.
I think Razor is the Azer in Blazor, or am I wrong?
Wow, that was... You thought long about that one, didn't you?
No, I didn't actually.
Well, actually, they say if you take Browser and Razor and you put them together, you get Blazor. I'm not sure what the RL thingy does, but
yeah, it's gone.
Browser plus Blazor, Browser plus Razor is Blazor. Okay, fair enough.
Sounds good.
That one. So you see some HTML stuff right here, like a table that we see, and then we see a for each right over here. So it iterates the weather forecast and then it shows it on the screen.
Yeah.
This is a layout that actually is the same as a layout that we would have in, or similar to a layout that we would have in, for instance, an ASP.NET MVC application.
Yeah, MVC, Razor pages, but also, for instance, like flat pages wouldn't work much differently because on the server the data is put in and you get your HTML.
Yep.
And the only thing is from there off, the changes and the events, then it starts to become a Blazor app.
Yeah, because then you don't have any postbacks anymore. You just have the real-time communication between the client and the server application. So one thing I did want to show is, let's see if I can find it right here. Oh, of course, this is a menu, but that was not what I wanted to show you. I think it was this one, where it actually says here, we render a component, an app, render mode, server, pre-rendered.
Okay, so this is the base of where your app starts.
Yeah. So
like you have in Angular apps and stuff. You have one app tag and from there out.
This is where the content gets injected, right? So if we go back to the fetch data thing that I had opened earlier, here you can see that there's some code and they actually added a add code tag to enable you to get the code. And here we have something that looks a lot like stuff we had in the old days. These are events.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cool thing is this event is automatically sent to the server. It's run over there, and then you get back the delta.
Yeah, so you have a program model that looks like a code behind, but you're actually doing a client-server communication.
Yeah. So this is actually pretty standard, the program and the startup with one...
Same kind of startup pipeline as we are used to.
Yes. With also DI in place for the weather forecast
It is
service.
actually the complete same host builder.
Yeah, it is. It just adds Razor pages and server-side Blazor. So you could see that there's some stuff here with a map Blazor hub and a fallback to page. So they do some magic for you for the Signal R, but you don't have to do anything for that yourself because, as I said, this is the project as it is by default. So let's start this one up. There's one really interesting thing that I would like to show you here. So we get the application, and while it's loading, I will open up my developer tools and show you the network tab because that's where the magic happens. The application's here. I'm going to close what's in the network tab right now, and I'm going to open the counter page, and you see nothing happens.
No, because it's not doing that postback.
And then I click it, and you see the counter increasing. Still nothing happens.
So you also don't have the AJAX calls because it's doing the communication
on a Signal R pipe.
On the socket. Yeah, okay.
So if I go to fetch data, this data comes from the weather service that's running on the server, and still we don't have any data. But then how does the data come in? Okay, so I'm going to refresh the page right now because now we have this really cool Blazor thing over here, and I'm going to open it up just a bit bigger.
Set one connection open.
And if we click into this binary message, we can see end invoke from .NET. Okay, this is probably...
It's an initialization thing.
It's probably an initialization thing, but if we go to, for instance, this one, it's a begin invoke. We see the UI events that we trigger in the browser, for instance, by clicking this one over here. So to make it clear, I'm removing all messages in the tab. I'm clicking the counter just a few more times. We see messages popping in. And then here we say render batch. And here we can see dispatch browser event. So the events are actually caught in the browser, sent to the backend, handled, the delta is sent back, and the UI is updated. So
there is a big difference with, for instance, if you would do this with Razor pages.
Yeah.
Everything you do in your Razor, in this in your template, the HTML template, it's already rendered on the server, and all your output is pushed to the front end.
Yeah.
So if you're doing some ifs and stuff now inline in your template, it goes over the line. Yeah. So you really need to take count that there could be a security issue there.
True.
And so it is a different model, even though it's really abstracted away. I see a slight danger there for people that don't understand how this model works.
I agree, and I think, but I'm not entirely sure, I think this will be really awesome for people developing heavy internal line of business applications. I think it will be awesome for that.
It looks like a really fast workflow to have an efficient application, because you're also not doing postbacks of full pages.
Yeah.
You're doing just small parts, and in a more efficient way than just REST, I would say.
And I think as soon as you go into publicly available web applications, I think you have to have some good developers that know their security if you're doing a public available thing. So yeah, and I think that might be a better fit to use either Blazor WebAssembly, which will be somewhere in the future.
Yeah.
But for Blazor Server, you can see the power it has by being extremely fast in developing stuff. Without any specific front-end knowledge, you can still have applications out and running really fast, and they behave completely like single-page applications, because we don't see any postbacks over here. We only see that the data for the weather is changing, because now the top one is 30 degrees, 52, and now it's 27 again. So last thing I would like to show, just to make sure that you see that stuff is happening on the server, I'll put a breakpoint on the weather service, and you can see as soon as I go here, we can see the request coming in, where it actually says, okay, so for this timestamp, give me a weather forecast.
Really cool.
Yeah, so
Really nice to have seen that now up and close. I heard everyone talking about it, but I never started the project.
yeah.
Thank you. This
Well,
is really good.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you would like to dive in, please do so. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. And for now, thanks and see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.